I don't know if anyone notices, but Ice has been having an interesting time on the Joe Budden podcast, especially as the podcast is seeking to be more messy in order to get more attention to itself. Now, there's a series of moments that I want to highlight to make my point so people don't think I'm reaching. The first one is this clip right here where Ice gets really moody and is called out by another member of the Joe Budden podcast, and he just looks completely fed up.
This nigga said she's still there.
She's there, Free. She love you so much she'll meet you at the spot, nigga. She'll wait.
Alone, bro.
Free, you got it on lock.
On their phone, I'm sure until we start.
You don't play. It's the first time I seen you like that.
Freeze, we started.
Nigga got the red hat on. Come on, man.
Now, here you see how that other podcaster is really making Ice mad and upset. He's not even taking part in the joke. And I think it is something that can hold the Joe Budden podcast back. Now, there's another portion of the Patreon where they were talking about which podcasters they would trade for. And I could not help but notice how Ice did not want to participate in it at all.
Put a little package together, man. Or some one for one.
Nigga need the headphones for that.
He's gonna
Or
quick to
who on the mark? Flip a shot. So you trying to say everybody else?
Freeze? No?
Nah, I don't.
Ian?
I mean, even Joe tried to get Ice involved.
Freeze, give me a package for Poor Minds. How do I get Poor Minds over here?
Ooh. That's a good.
Let's go, Freeze. Come on, Freeze.
But Ice still didn't want to be down with the movement. Now, I think this is a big problem for the show because you can't have someone on the show who just is unwilling to do anything. And I think that Ice, while he is someone who shows up on time, he is someone who does his thing, he's not mean to others, it doesn't help for the most engaging content. Another tough part about this is I think everybody on the cast knows that Ice gets treated with kid gloves, right? Joe has admitted to taking it easy on Ice. And it's not fair to the other members of the podcast who get exposed for their ways. Like, Ish, you got a white girlfriend. Ish, you moody all the time. How come? But when you do that to Ice, everybody falls back. And then there's other co-hosts on the show who get called out for getting suspended, trying to fight other members of the show. But Ice is like protected by Viper. Stand back. There's also this other moment where Ice dressed up for the 10-year anniversary. He was the only one to dress up, and people started roasting him crazy. And then when he came back to sit down on the show from the behind the scenes, he shot at another co-host and told them, hey, man, you should try being a team player.
Like he escaped. After you killed Malcolm, you left. That's how you got away, Bradley.
It's called being a team player, man. Right, sometimes.
You look up. Oh, damn, Frank.
I don't.
Damn, Frank.
I don't.
So this is just a series of evidence that I wanted to highlight of Ice becoming more and more sensitive. Now, there's also other parts where Ice's value was a bit questionable. Remember his prediction about Drake's album, the Party Next Door collaboration selling? First, he said some really low number. I think it was like in the 100s. And then it overshot that by a lot. I think 247. And I'm just saying that and highlighting it because, yo, dog, you're like the music person. So if your value is not in the music projections, if you're not well researched on the music stuff, then that's going to be something that's tough to manage, because if you don't want to engage in the messiness and then you look like you're not knowledgeable in the stuff you're supposed to be knowledgeable about, your value starts to sink. I liken Ice to Tom Hagen on The Godfather. I don't know if a lot of you seen The Godfather, but it's one of the best movies of all time, possibly the best. And in it, Tom Hagen is a figure of the underworld. He's great at numbers, he's respectful, but he can't get the job done when it comes to war. You know, they tell him, you're not a wartime consiglieri.
Tom Hagen's no longer consiglieri. It's going to be our lawyer in Vegas. That's no reflection on Tom, but that's the way I want it.
Mike, why am I out?
You're not a wartime consiglieri, Tom. Things may get rough with the move we're trying.
You're not built for this here. And I think what it is Ice is not a wartime podcaster. It's about to get messy at the JBP. And when they start to talk about topics that are sensitive, maybe when they talk about Rory and Maul, when they talk about Charlemagne, when they try to talk about things that are divisive, Ice quiets up. And then when people try to get him involved, he don't want to speak up. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. And I think that's a serious hang up for the Joe Budden podcast moving forward. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Danny, why are you targeting Ice again? I'm not really targeting Ice. I'm more so making an observation. I've been here for a few years now, and I just noticed trends. And I think when the podcast was, I would say over the last 3-4 months, it's been in some type of dry spot as it's navigated a series of, setbacks with Joe and him getting kicked out of his studio, with members of the show not really preparing, showing up late, not taking it as serious as it is. Joe's going to crack the whip. Joe's going to let everybody know, hey, it's first quarter. We slacked off a little bit. All of this stuff about, Melissa Ford being quiet on the Patreon, we don't want none of that. And don't think for a moment I haven't noticed how Melissa Ford was absent from the last episode. Could it be because of the Drake stuff? Even though I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more so that she's quiet on the Patreon. I think Joe might have told her, hey, man, just get it together, bro. And she hit Atlanta. She went to Atlanta to get her check balance. But let me know what you think. Do you feel like Ice is getting more and more sensitive, or do you feel that it's looking like that only because the podcast is getting more and more messy? I want to see how Ice responds to these series of interesting episodes, and I think maybe he might have something in his wheelhouse, maybe not. I feel like he's just showing up to the pod and doing what he wants, not what the podcast needs. All right, y'all. Let me know what you think. It's an interesting, I'm telling y'all, man. I'm telling y'all, watch this. I've seen this before. It's just so cyclical. This pod trades thing is exactly like what Joe did a few years ago with Pod Wars. That was another bit he introduced in order to make things hot. So when Joe does this, he knows things are dry. And he's trying to boost the Patreon subscriptions. Dr. Umar is coming soon. Going to be interesting to see if Ice is on the pod. I think we might see when Joe does the Patreon episode with Dr. Umar, he might tell Ice, listen, my man, you could take the day off, bro. Don't worry. And I wonder, let me go check right now. Was Umar, when he was there, was Ice on the show? And I don't think he was. Oh, he wasn't. And I think that's by design. I know you're going to say, oh, it was that he was absent. I think Joe probably prefers Ice is not around when things really need to get heated and confrontational. All right, yo, that's my video for now. I got more content coming. I got a Rory and Maul episode coming soon. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. Follow me on Patreon, The Stop. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.